Now we will discuss feral and isolated children. A feral child is a child who from a very young age was taken away from civilization. Now, these kinds of children are basically picked up by animals if they are living very close to thick forests. In tribes, it has been observed that some of the children they are picked up by animals, they are taken away from the civilization and they are brought up there, and later on they were returned to the civilization. In that case, these children have developed the habit of making sounds like animals and walking like animals. So a feral child is the one who has been kept away from the civilization. Then we have isolated children. Now these children are deprived of any social interaction, social contact with the society. They are kept in isolation and they had a very little or no human interaction or human contact. So now we will see that how the psychology or the expression of language or non-expression of language in the cases of feral children and isolated children. We will look at the studies conducted on a feral child and an isolated child. So first of all, we will see wild boy Victor. Now, Lane in 1976 presented a detailed description and analysis of a boy named Victor who was found in woods of France in 1797. Now, peasants saw the boy running naked through the woods, searching for nuts and potatoes and all that. And he was subsequently captured by some hunters and brought to civilization. They called him the wild boy. The wild boy came to the attention of Jean-Marc Gaspard Ettard, a young physician. Now, at the time of his capture, Victor was thought to be about 12 or 13 years old. He had no speech, although his hearing was normal and he uttered some sounds. Other physicians thought that Victor was deaf and retarded, but Ettard was optimistic that he could be trained to be socialized and to use language. Ettard worked intensively with Victor for 5 years, using techniques of language training and behavior modification similar to those used by modern researchers. Victor had other problems with language. He developed a gestural communication system that interfered with the language training. The signs hindered his need to communicate. Another problem was Victor's understanding of words. Victor associated a particular name with a particular object rather than with a class of objects. For instance, when taught the word for book, he initially applied it to only one book. In general, Victor's language progress was poor. Then we have another case, and that case is of Jeannie. Now, talking about isolated children, they are those who grow up with extremely limited human contact, like Jeannie, with no social skills. Now, in the case of Jeannie, she was also deprived of human contact and was confined to a small bedroom where only the contact that she could have was just to have food, and that's it. Now, when she was found, Jeannie was severely undernourished and displayed almost no social skills. She had no language skills at all. After being placed in a program of language remediation, Jeannie began to show some language gains, but her development was uneven. A puzzling aspect of Jeannie's language development was that she appeared to process language in the right hemisphere, even though she was right-handed and had no damage to the left hemisphere. Ordinarily, right-handed individuals process language principally in the left hemisphere. Curtis and her colleagues, they basically speculated that Jeannie's left hemisphere might have suffered some functional disorder from lack of use, forcing her to acquire language with the right hemisphere. In both cases, we saw that although they could not use language properly or communicate in a normal manner, but they did make some progress after they are being exposed to language or communication. Thus, it is clear from these two instances that the overall prognosis for acquiring language after prolonged isolation from other humans is quite bleak. Given the extreme circumstances of their early years, it is perhaps remarkable that they were able to do as well as they did.